Time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Hi everyone, I'm Sam Lesante, and a special edition here, folks. I'm very happy to have this show today. I'm with a very good friend of mine who I've had the pleasure of knowing for the last maybe 10 or 11 years, and that's Mayor John Reiley. This is his last year as mayor. He chose not to run for re-election, and I thought I would just sit down with John and have a one-on-one conversation with him, and we'll maybe touch on some areas that it's a little touchy, but just to see how he feels about certain things. Well, Mayor, first of all, congratulations on the many years of success you've had in Pottsville.
Well, thank you, Sam. It was a lot of good years, and we had a few bumps in the road, but we managed them pretty well. So.
Well, we're going to talk about, a little bit about why you decided. Well, let's talk about why did you decide not to run again?
Well, by the time my term is up at 10 a.m., January 6th, I'll have like 13 years and 10 months as mayor. If I would run, and if I would have ran and been successful, I'm 78 now, that'd mean I'd be 82 at the end of my term.
Well, you'll still be young.
I'm healthy, and everything's fine. It's just that I've accomplished some things that I set out to do, and with the help of a lot of good people.
Oh, yes. And let's go back to when you took over in 2000, March of 2000, of course, with the sad passing of your son. Why did you decide at that time to? They appointed you mayor, of course, and then you ran.
Right.
What was the reason why you decided that you wanted to be mayor at that time? Well,
Terry was a visionary, Sam, and he had a lot of very progressive ideas. I didn't know he had as many pokers in the fire until I took over as mayor. I thought he had like 7 or 8, but when I took over as mayor, I asked his secretary, who I retained as my secretary, that bring me Terry's file on his various projects. And she walks over to the file drawer. She says, "There's a drawer full of them," and there was 37 folders in there. Some of them we couldn't put together and bring to a positive conclusion. Like, I'm looking at a picture there of the Garfield Square School. It was a historic school. It was one of the very first schools in Pottsville, and his dream was to restore it and use it for offices, not necessarily municipal offices, but private offices. That didn't work out. He had a vision of the Greater Pottsville Sewer Authority and the Schuylkill Valley Sewer Authority merging together into one large authority, regional authority. And the architects and the attorneys just couldn't agree on things. So we weren't successful in that project, but he had started the Main Street program. It was started right outside the City Hall here on the Center and Laurel, and he had like 2 blocks done, I guess, when he passed away. So, but we continued all the way down to Mock Junk Street. That's like 7 blocks down. And you saw where the Atkins Mansion is. I can remember walking in there. It was the old Moose building, and walked into the auditorium, and there was a hole in the roof that you could have dropped a car through the hole in the roof. That's how bad that building was in, what bad shape that building was in. Fortunately, we had a fellow who married a Pottsville girl, Bob Carson, came in and purchased a property and restored it. It's a beautiful building now, very functional. It's filled with tenants, a bank, a doctor, a few other professional offices in there. And that evolved into the Main Street program. It was a state program through the Department of Community Affairs, and they had a follow-up program on that, the Elm Street program, which started from City Hall going north up to Maroons and swings around Bearfield project. We had a lot of private development. It was a public-private partnership. Louis Finelli constructed 2 buildings up there, the Louis Finelli building, and also the SAM building across the street from Service Access Management, which is a service agency that takes care of a lot of aging and children projects, programs for the county, and that worked out really well. It really dressed up that corner. That was really a deteriorating neighborhood. But Mr. Finelli, the street used to be Cole Street, and he ended up putting up 2 new buildings. One was 45,000 square feet, and the other was about 20, I think, 18 or 20. And he said, but you have to tell me that we're going to change the name of the street. I don't want a Cole Street address. I said, well, what name do you want? He said, name it after Terry. So we named it after Terry.
You know, it's interesting because as you look at, the years that you've been involved, and I've said this many times, John, and whether you're a Democrat, Republican, it has nothing to do with it. But I've always found you to be very hands-on and great personality, work with the people, and you, from the very first interview I had with you, I sense that your concern is for the people in Pottsville, and you've worked very hard for the people in Pottsville. And here again, I'm not going to be Democrat, Republican, but the point is that you had that ability. Now, when you decided to, I know why you took over, because you wanted to fulfill Terry's dreams, some of his projects at least. But were you involved with the Liquor Control Board at the time?
Yes, I started with the Liquor Board in 1976. And I worked through the first 4 years. It was the first 4 years of a little bit over 4 years, I guess. As mayor, I was still working at the liquor board, and I retired from the liquor board in 2005.
And so you had, some political, savvy from being involved with.
Yeah, it was the liquor board. I was there for 29 years, and I was board secretary, and also involved very heavily with legislative liaison with the General Assembly. And I got to know a lot of the players over there.
Folks, if you just tuned in, I'm talking to Mayor John Reiley, one-on-one. We come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the lasting legacy, the bicentennial, but the interactions of a political figure and how this town improved and how they worked together, which was so very important. We'll be back right after these messages. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Special edition here. I'm at the City Hall in Pottsville talking to its current mayor, who will be a former mayor, January the 6th, John Reiley. John, when you took over, then we started coming into some major events that happened here, and that's when we started. Our channel came down here. I think it was maybe 2002, 2003, when things were starting to develop for the bicentennial.
For the bicentennial, that's right, Sam. And what happened when some of the people that were involved in the sesquicentennial, which was 150 years. And they said, listen, what we want to do is we want to, for the sesquicentennial, they had nothing but memories. But they wanted something substantive that we could leave for future generations. And that's how the lasting legacy was formed. Ian Lipton and Joe Slitzer were 2 of the movers and shakers in that endeavor. And it was 3 or 4 years of planning. I mean, it wasn't put together in a month or so. It was they were planning and having fundraisers well before that. And as a result, we ended up with Yingling Bicentennial Park, General George Jolwin Park, some of the improvements to the JFK swimming pool recreation complex. So it wasn't just one project, but we had several projects out there going in conjunction with the bicentennial.
Working with the council and working with, you know, people in your administration, I've always complimented the fact that you would go to a council meeting and, yeah, I'm sure there was times where people disagreed, but it was always at least when I was in a civil matter. It wasn't where you left screaming and yelling. Maybe behind closed doors once in a while there was some, but I mean, I've never sensed any kind of major animosity with your council and the mayor. Is that correct?
Yeah, very, very much so. Very correct, Sam. We've had, right now, it's all of the offices are held by Democrats, but when I first took over, there was 2 Democratic councilmen and 2 Republican councilmen and the mayor. And but all in all, in my almost, it'll be 13 years and 10 months, and I only have one more council meeting to go, but I hope nothing happens. But in that time, I can only recall maybe 6 negative votes and 6 nay votes in practically 14 years almost.
And what do you attribute that to, John?
Well, it was everything was on the table. I mean, there's none of this going around the corners, this thing, hey, we'll do this for you, do that for you. Everything was on the table. We kept the council members informed. They would get the agenda usually like a Friday before the Monday meeting, so there was no surprises. Mm-hmm. And I have to attribute the outstanding council persons that served with me, and some key players in the city, Tom Palomar, city administrator, Chief Merton, head of the police force, Fire Chief Todd March, Fire Chief Todd March. Well, both Merton and Todd started with the city when I was a councilman with dark hair. Oh. You know, but I didn't have any gray hair then. But and they're.
So you're attributing the fact that you worked together was because everything was on the open. There was no hidden agendas, and this is how the town be able to progress as much as it did.
That, and the key players. Before we went on the air, you were talking about Ian Slitzer and Ian Lipton and Joe Slitzer and Jerry Enders and the crews. The outstanding job that he's done for the crews. So it's Pat Murphy, Dick Yingling, God love him for all his trials and tribulations, but. He has helped every time I ask Dick Yingling. I
don't know of anyone he hasn't helped. Dick Yingling, he's
a good guy.
He really is, and he is genuine. He is who he is. There's he's not pretentious by no means. The political arena, the way it is today, we see such a discord sometimes with. The politics with our Congress, sometimes with the state, and sometimes it becomes, bitter, very negative, and power hungry. Okay, and I think this is the kind of politics that people do not want to see. Where you just want to go after it because of the power of the position, okay? And here again, I'm not picking on Democrats or Republicans. I'm just speaking in general. You happen to be a Democrat, okay? Whether you're a Republican, it doesn't make any difference to me. It's what the person is and what they do, okay? Are you a staunch Democrat, or are you a Democrat by party?
I'm a moderate Democrat. I've had. Some boards that I serve on, I voted. I voted with the Republicans. It wasn't a political position, but on some projects that that impacts the county, and I try to vote what's best for everybody. Not every time you make a decision, yes or no, someone's gonna be disappointed. But the majority, you try to satisfy the majority. I think that Sam, you're from the coal region, but I think the coal regions we're so similar in some of our attitudes and some of our thoughts. we have a trend to work together. You know, you see it in Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, Hazelton. You know, right down the line, Pottsville. There are times when, you know, some personalities clash, but don't, you know, that you got to move on.
And that's the thing I think that that I do not like. I think that if I'm working against you to run for the mayor, and I have my cause, you have your cause, when you win, then I think we should be working together. Unfortunately, in some areas in our region, you have people who ran for mayor or run for an office, and when they win, people are out there trying to do harm to that person all the time because they lost. All right, and this is the thing that I think doesn't help any city, any township, any borough at all when you have that kind of attitude.
Sam, I'd like to use the Union Station Square as an example. This was a dream of Terry's, one that I really wanted to accomplish, but it was the county, which was predominantly Republican-controlled through the formative years of putting this together, and the city, and we worked very well together. And the only problem that happened was the commissioners wouldn't attend the meetings. They'd have, you know, their various division chiefs come down, and then they'd have to go back and work by the commissioners. And things were getting tied up, and we had Congressman Holden, who was a great help in obtaining the funding for that project down there. But he called us together and said, you know what, you got to get this project rolling, or we're going to lose the funding. So we approached the county commissioners, and we said, let the city be the managing agency, you know, to get this project going. So, and they still cooperated. You know, they turned it over to the. I never knew it got into a building project of that magnitude down there with $17 million, and they came in $1 million under budget. You know, and Tom Palomar, our city administrator, and Julie Riscola, our city clerk, they never had a project like that. So. It was a learning process for us, but the project got finished, and it came in $1 million under budget.
And helps the entire community.
That's right.
I'm talking with Mayor John Reiley, folks. This is last year as mayor of the city of Pottsville, serving 13 years and 10 months, effectively January. We come back, we're going to get a little bit more personal with the mayor. Thanks for staying with us, folks. I'm Sam Lesante. Remember, you can watch any of our shows 24/7 on ssptv.com. And remember, folks, on Comcast, you can watch your news. Number one's local news here at 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. and 10 a.m. During the day. My guest today, John Reiley, probably the last interview I'll have with him as mayor. Hopefully we'll have many more with him. Mayor, talking about the political arena today, okay, and your reflection on what you've seen happen in the last maybe 10, 13 years with the Democrats, the Republicans, you know, and the way certain parties have adhered to certain projects or whatever. For example, the Democrat Party today, the platform stands for their platform now. I'm not saying you stand for it, but the Democrat platform stands for pro-choice, which is abortion, gay marriage, okay, and you being a staunch Catholic, you have a sister who's a nun.
Two sisters a nun, and a brother a priest.
How do you feel about that?
Well, Sam, the platforms of any party, it's not just one plank. There are several planks in that platform. Do I agree with all the planks, especially the ones that you mentioned, gay marriage and pro-choice? I'm absolutely opposed to pro-choice. So I went to a Jesuit university, and if I came out in favor of that, I'd be afraid to start my car in the morning. The Pope is a Jesuit, you know, so you gotta. But I think the overall I always say, the Republicans, they're pro-business and so on, and the Democrats, they look out for the little guy. In my years as board secretary, I followed that principle. The large licensees, the Woodlands up in Wilkes-Barre or Seven Springs, they could afford to pay high-priced attorneys, but Little Johnny's bar down in 2nd Street, he can't afford the high-priced attorneys. So I always tried to help the little guy.
I know that, but I struggle with sometimes when you have a mission statement, and you belong to a club. You belong to a club because you believe in the mission statement of that club. Yes. And so that's where with you, and I know you, and I know your family, not very well, but I know of you. And I always wondered how that, if it's an internal conflict.
No, because I belong to a couple clubs, and a firehouse, whether it's a firehouse or a golf club, there's certain individuals in there who you might not like some of their stance on things, but it's the mission of a club is for the common membership of those of the members. It comes from the liquor code. A club has to be for the benefit of the members, and
So you may have a couple in there that you don't agree
Right.
with. Okay, your wife. Okay, how did she feel about you retiring as a mayor?
Oh, she's a little concerned, Sam. We both like to be boss, I'm going to be spending a lot more time at home now, but we both like to be boss, so she's not too thrilled about it, I don't think.
Well, now, you certainly are not going to just close the door and say, I'll see you, because you will still be active in...
Oh, yes. I'm on a couple boards here in the county that I'll be active in. Like today, I have several meetings of various two organizations in particular that I have to attend, and I have plenty to do. Our family has a farm down in the Deer Lake area, and there's a lot of work to be done down there. My brother, semi-retired brother is a priest. He lives in the old homestead, but there's a lot of chores to be done down there that I tell people I have a honey-do list about as thick as a phone book. So.
Well, we have a minute left here. What would you attribute was your greatest moment as mayor?
It had to be the dedication of Union Station. Yes, the bicentennial was great, but the bicentennial really wasn't one of Terry's projects, that he had envisioned. But the Union Station was a Terry and a fellow John Sininsky, both of who have passed away now. But that was my proudest one.
Well, all I could say is I told you this on the phone, and I'm saying it publicly. It was an honor meeting you and working with you over the years. You are a great person. I always admired how you maintained the city here and how you kept all the people first at heart and all the work you did. And it's a pleasure to deal with people like you in the political arena. And I wish you and your family the very best and good health to you.
Well, thank you, Sam, and thank you for supporting Pottsville and your ventures dating back, I guess, 2002, 2003, when you start coming to town. Yeah. But you've done a lot for the city.
Appreciate it. Folks, Mayor John Reiley certainly will be no stranger to Pottsville, but he'll be packing it in, as we say. Is it January the 6th?
January 6th, 10 a.m.
10 a.m. John Reiley will no longer be the mayor, but former mayor of Pottsville. You're watching the Sam Lesante Show. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.